Hello, I'm Sean Murray, and this is The Conversation, where we take an alternative look at political events and current affairs through an Irish lens. In this show, we hope to pick, probe, investigate and uncover the stories that you want to hear. We go where mainstream won't go. This week, we'll be speaking to a man that fought a 9-year-long extradition battle in the US, inadvertently becoming a cause célèbre and a symbol of Irish patriotism within the Irish American community. But before we do, let's get a quick overview on this week's topic.
One of the first goals of any Irish Republican political prisoner, they will inform you, is to strategise a prison breakout. While there has been many successes in Ireland's long campaign for independence, the more contemporary phase of the conflict saw a number of audacious escapes. On the 31st of October 1973, 3 Irish Republican prisoners escaped by helicopter from Mountjoy Prison in Dublin. After landing in the prison exercise yard, the 3 men, Seamus Toomey, J.B. O'Hagan and Kevin Mallon, were successfully airlifted to freedom. The escape made headlines around the world, causing an embarrassment to the Irish government of the time, led by Fine Gael's Liam Cosgrave, which was criticised by opposition party Fianna Fáil. A manhunt involving 20,000 members of the Irish Defence Forces and Garda Síochána was launched for the escapees, one of whom, Seamus Toomey, was not recaptured until December 1977. The Wolftones wrote a song celebrating the escape called the Helicopter Song, which topped the Irish popular music charts. In the aftermath of the Mountjoy escape, all Republican prisoners were moved to Portlaoise for security reasons. Not long after, 19 Republican prisoners blasted their way out of the jail dressed as prison officers. Despite an intensive search by Gardaí and troops, none of the escapees were recaptured and 16 were still free at the end of the year. In 1981, prison guards were once again caught off guard at Belfast's Crumlin Road jail, where 8 IRA prisoners shot their way to freedom out of one of the most heavily guarded prisons in Europe. Some of the men were on remand for the killing of SAS captain Herbert Westmacott. After holding a number of prison officers hostage, the escapees forced their way out of the front gates and made their escape into the surrounding streets. In September 1983, in what is now considered one of the most daring escapes in modern history, 38 IRA men overpowered guards and forced their way out of Long Kesh prison. Just 2 years earlier, 10 IRA prisoners had died on hunger strike. The escape was seen as a major morale boost in the aftermath of the deaths of their comrades. The jail was seen as Europe's most secure prison. It was a prison within a detention centre within an army camp, and believed to be completely impenetrable by many leading security experts. The escape, as to the many that were enacted beforehand, were seen by Republican activists and prisoners as a major morale boost in the psychological war against the British.
And with that, I'd like to introduce my next guest. Joe Doherty's story could have been written by a best-selling novelist, except that his experiences are real and he has lived to tell the story. A man that has no qualms in labelling himself a former guerrilla fighter, he has, like so many, made a major contribution to peace. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you very much.
Firstly, Joe, your childhood growing up, tell me a bit about that.
I grew up in North Belfast in the New Lodge area. A part of the New Lodge area was predominantly Unionist Protestant, so I had really, really good memories growing up. Of course, at a very, very young age, you had a knowledge there was something wrong, because the shipyards, I could see the shipyards, and looking across the East Belfast, where I knew my father couldn't get a job. There was Gallagher Cigarette Factory, the largest cigarette factory in the world. It was right at our corner, at the bottom of Upper Meadow Street. Yet nobody from our community can get a job in it. We're talking about 10 to 15 to 20,000 people worked in there. So you had a sense that you were second class citizen, but you had all your wee Protestant mates, and you went baking and up the Cave Hill Road and stuff like up the Cave Hill and played in the waterworks and different things. At that particular time, I had a wee box TV, and I remember very well Dr. Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech, Protestant, Catholics, Jews and Gentiles, blacks and whites, walking on the plateau of freedom and equality and all that. That struck me, and it struck anybody, even at a very young age of 13, 14. But at that particular time, the Northern Ireland Civil Rights Movement was on. I was too young to go to the course, and I was too young to fully understand the intricate details of discrimination other than the physical ones that I seen. And I remember very well the Civil Rights March from Queen's University to the City Hall, very, very famous, and it was smashed up by the police. People were beaten up and blooded, and people were being arrested. And at a very young age, I'm thinking, hold on here. We're marching for basic civil rights. We're just, to get an equal opportunity to get jobs. My mother and father couldn't vote at that particular time. I didn't even know that until later on. And that's all it was. The right to vote, the right to democracy. After all, the Parliament was the Parliament of the world, and Magna Carta and writ the habeas corpus. The English gave us that, but it didn't affect where we lived. So that affected me greatly. Later on, there was a sea change in our street with Protestants. We were we got on very well. But I think the civil rights movement threatened them. They felt threatened by that, equality and stuff. So a lot of them started to move out. A lot of them stopped talking to us for some reason. A lot of good Protestants actually stayed there and became our neighbours even right through the conflict, and they're still there today. But there's that kind of sea change. And then I remember when the pogroms came, and dozens and dozens of families came out of Rathcoole, and they came up to the New Lodge, including the Bobby Sands family. They went to the west, but we had a lot of people.
That's the Catholic families that were
Catholic families,
displaced.
yes, of course. And you're hearing all these stories that they lived there all their lives. They had great neighbours, and Ian Paisley come on the scene, creating a lot of panic within the area, what the civil rights marches and what this means for Protestant culture and equality and things like that there. Spooked up a lot of people. The few remaining families that was in Tigers Bay moved in. When they moved in, a lot more Protestants moved out. They weren't forced out, of course, because the CDC, the Civil Defence Committee, came round and said, we don't want this area, it's a mixed area, we want you to stay like it. But as they call it in America, white flight. Once whites start moving out and blacks start moving in, and then there's a rush. So there was the sea change. Then, of course, all what was going on in Bombay Street and what was happening in West Belfast and the Ardoyne, hundreds of people being burnt out. We weren't affected as much as that there. But then the British Army, I remember the Army, it's the Queen's Regiment, they came in from Cyprus. So they're all tanned up and good-looking big men and stuff like that there. And, you were inspired by that because, we thought that they were in to save us. But my grandfather, my mother's father, Alexander, he fought with the British Army on the Battle of the Somme, along with his father, my great-grandfather, Alexander Sr. And when he came back, he joined the IRA in 1920 and fought in the War of Independence. And I remember him saying to my mother, says, Maureen, they're not here to protect you, they're here to protect the empire. It's always their empire. And I remember my mother going, well, things have changed since then. And then, I don't know, John, just after, when I think back of it, you were playing football with the British soldiers at the corner, they were coming in with dart teams in the local bars and the New Lodge, and all of a sudden you're being stopped going to school, put up against the wall. You're waking up at 4:30 in the morning and there's doors getting kicked in, and people have been dragged out for interrogations and things like that there. This kind of sea change. A lot of the young squaddies would say, it's not our fault, we're getting orders from above to stop you going to school, or, see my father going to work in the docks, he'd be stopped, frisked, put up like that there. So obviously it became an occupying army. As my grandfather said, they're here to protect the empire. So you notice that, and there's a resentment against that. So I was one of the very, very early ones that, we were all like kids out throwing stones. Stones became Patra bombs. Then I seen a sign on the wall in Victoria Barracks saying, join Provisional na Fianna Éireann. Now, I didn't know what provisional was, I didn't even know what that means, but na Fianna Éireann I knew was Irish, and somebody in school said, that means the Boy Scouts, the Republican Scouts. So I made my way around, found out. So I was one of the early ones to join the Fianna Éireann. I was taken down to a place called the Kingdom Hall, which was a Jehovah's Witness Hall, was actually on the New Lodge on North Queen Street. The Jehovah's moved out when the Troubles came, so the Fergal O'Hanlon saw.
I thought you were going to confuse the audience here and say, look, the Jehovah's Witnesses were caught up in early Republican recruitment or something like that.
Well, we went into our hall, the local Sinn Féin took it over, so it was the Fergal O'Hanlon and Sean South club, they called it. And I remember the early day, their 2 volunteers was killed in the 1950s, and as like all commons, they name them after dead martyrs. I remember a funny story, as a major in the Queen's Regiment knocked on the door. There was something to do with a license, so could we talk to Mr. O'Hanlon and Mr. O'South. I got there, and somebody said, well, you got to go down there outside Dundalk, they're buried and stuff. So I went in there, and it was a blue flag with an orange sunburst. I didn't come from a cultural Republican family. It wasn't GA or Irish language, or my dad was a socialist, he was a docker, so I didn't get any kind of, we didn't have Putty Pierce or anybody up on the wall. Yeah, I remember the blue flag with orange sunburst, and that meant a new generation. Put our left hand, it was a pistol, first time I ever seen a gun, beside police and army. Actually a revolver on the thing, we had to touch the revolver and the flag, put our right hand up and swear allegiance to the sovereignty of the Republic. We were paraphrasing it back, didn't understand a word of it. It was all jumble to me, all this patriotic kind of phrases put out, but we just repeated it. And I remember it says, there's 2 things it's going to happen to you, Joe. It was me and another 2 fellas, not mentioning their name. It says, you're either going to go to jail or you're going to go to Milltown, into the grave. That's the path ahead of you. You have an opportunity to leave and you want to leave now. We said no. So how do we sense patriotism and belonging? Of course, they give us a very strict rule because we were Republican Boy Scouts. We were supposed to have purity of mind, soul, and heart. That was like no more cider drinking. We couldn't drink Scrumpy or anything like that there. You had to be, you had to rise above, stand at the street corner sort of thing, because you represent the Republican movement and things like that there. You have values and principles now and things like that there. We were only 13, 14 years of age, you know.
And did you feel the sense of that discipline right away, did you?
Oh, well, yeah, because I told you, if you're seen drunk, you know, at a young age or anything out there, you will be court-martialed and you'll get kicked out and sort of things like that there. If you're into any brawls at the local dance halls or bullying or anything out there, well, it was supposed to give us a sense of being who we are, a sense of what republicanism means. It's something good, you know. And anything, I remember my ma saying, oh, he's a good Republican up the street because he didn't drink. So Republicans then were kind of seen as, you know, the high echelon of society and the community and things like that there. So we were warned, if you violate that or you bring the Fianna and the Republican movement into disrepute, we're going to kick you out, things like that there. So I got involved in the Fianna, and we were in support of the IRA because they were out doing operations. We'd be doing scouting for them, we'd move gear for them, we'd do a wee bit of here and a wee bit of that. So they got there, give them that kind of support. Then in January 1972, I was arrested. Matter of fact, I was 17 on a Thursday, and the next day I got scooped, walking down the street, and the army pulled me in. They took me into Glenrabble Barracks, and it says, do you know, what's your date of birth? And I give him a bum date of birth. He said, no. 20th of January 1955, you were 17 yesterday, so you're not a boy now, and do you know where you're going? And I knew I was going. I was Gerwood. It was Gerwood, Palace Barracks, and Goth Barracks. They were the 3 major interrogation centres, and we were warned about it, what they're going to do, psychological, physical torture and things like that there. So I was taken up to Gerwood. I think it was 3 days kept there. You weren't allowed to sleep. They give you a cot, and you'd be sleeping. You thought you're sleeping 4 or 5 hours, probably only an hour. Things like that. You're taken in, interrogated. I was stripped, slapped around a bit, and that's no serious torture because it was 2 guys. It was Willie Johnson, I think, Willie Johnson and Patrick Fitzsimmons. They were being tortured, and I could smell the flesh. They were being burned. They had electric fires put on them until they got there. And I can hear the screaming. I mean, I'm only 17, I can hear the screaming. And that put the hairs in the back of my head, and the smell of burnt flesh, things they got there, it was scary. I was just a wee minion. I don't think they really wanted me to put me through that there. Probably had nothing to tell anyway. And what them 2 fellas did. After that there, I thought I was going home. They drove me down Crumlin Road, Clifton Street, took a left. Then they took a right down Frederick Street, so I knew I was going to the docks. Across the Queen's Bridge, I had an understanding where I was going, and that was the Maidstone internment ship. This is no British Army or British Navy ship that they used in the Second World War. They brought it to Belfast in 1969, 1970. It was a troop ship, moved the troops out. That was the new centre for the detainees and internees to be held. So it was held there for 4 weeks. It's like 200-300 people crammed into this little boat. You know, you had like, it wasn't just 2 bunks, it was 4 bunks. So because I was 17, a wee skinny kid, I had to climb up a ladder to get into bed and things like that there. We had to sleep during the day. We had to sleep during the day and then go up at night and stay up all night. You couldn't have all 200-300 out at the one time. So we get fed at night and things like that there. So it was there with a lot of people. You know, I held there for 4 weeks, then I was taken up and was given an internment order signed by the Prime Minister then, that was Brian Faulkner. He was the old Stormont Prime Minister. Said you're being interned. There was no charges. You couldn't get a solicitor, there was no prosecutor, nothing. They just give you a piece of paper and you were interned, you were detained indefinitely. And 4 weeks later, that was my first time ever on a ship, and the first time ever on a helicopter. There's a Wessex helicopter. I actually seen one the other day in the Crumlin Road. There's
Crumlin Road jail, that's right.
Yeah, there's one there,
Yes.
but that's exactly out there.
That one used to bring you from the Crum to Long Kesh.
Well, that's probably the one I was on.
Yeah.
That was the one I got photographs of it the other day. I took photographs. And they took us from there down the Long Kesh. They took us up. Never started to get in the nosebleed because it goes up like that very, very fast. They threatened to throw 1 or 2 of us out. They grabbed some fella, young fella, he was blindfolded. They threatened to throw him out, that sort of thing, which did happen with the hooded men. Took us down the Long Kesh and looked out, and it was like six compounds. They called them compounds, it was cages. It's 100 men in each cage. Put me in the cage 6. You know what I mean? First time, you're only 17 years of age, barely kissed a girl. Next thing you know, I'm on a prison ship, I'm on a helicopter, and then I've been flown down the Long Kesh, an internment camp, and put in the compound 6, or cage 6 as we call it. Was asked who I was, get in, there's 2 officers in command. One was the official IRA, and one was the provisional. I said, I'm provisional. Put me in a hut, bunk beds and things like that there. Spent the next 4 or 5 months at internment camp. At that particular time, 72, all the talks was going this, so Jerry Adams, Martin McGuinness, and Seamus Toomey and Sean McStayfoy, they were flew to London for negotiations. So they were doing little teasers. So every Tuesday and every Thursday, there were at least 4 or 5 people out of internment. So at the very, very end of May or beginning of June 72, I was released. And I was up and coming. And when I got out, that's when I joined the Irish Republican Army. But that was short-lived because the 72 ceasefire came in. It was 2 weeks ceasefire. So we were all glad because we were taken up in the room, and Sean McStayfoy came in, and late Martin Megan, and thank you for your contribution to the struggle. Looks like we all thought the struggle was ending. I wanted to go back to be a plumber, and people wanted to get bricklaying and taxi driving, and then that ceasefire broke, and I got continued with the armed struggle right up until the following year. I was arrested with explosives.
What year was it?
I was 74.
And it's interesting, you're saying that, you know, here's you 17, sorry, the day after you're 17 being arrested,
Yeah.
been put on the maidstone,
Yeah.
gone through all that and then end up in the cages.
Yeah.
You'd think that'd be a deterrent, but as soon as you get out, you join the IRA.
Oh, I joined the IRA. I was very, very determined because when I was on the maidstone, the Derry lads was on the maidstone saying, there's going to be a protest today in Derry. That was the 30th of January 1972. And there's thousands turning up because it was on the early radio, 11 o'clock. The 1,000 people have gathered up on the hill and they were about to march down. And then the next half-hourly news, there's shooting, appears to be shooting at it. Nobody really knew what it was. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and finally one turned on the news at 6 o'clock. The 13 of the protesters, people who are protesting against internment, us being interned without trial, were murdered by the paratroopers. And that had a big effect. I remember watching 6 o'clock news with a wee TV up in the canteen. And right away the army came into the ship. They came into the ship, stripped us all. They thought, I don't know, they thought we were going to burn the ship or sink the ship, I don't know what. But they came in, stripped us all, looking for weapons, looking for anything, explosives or petrolers, I don't know what it was. And I thought that was a further punishment, the way they should have come in. So that had an effect on me when you remember all those people like marching, protesting, it's a civil rights march, then people think. So it made me pretty determined when I got out there I was going to rejoin this time. I've grown up now. I joined the Irish Republican Army, C Company, 3rd Battalion, very proud of that, Belfast Brigade, and that was the new lodge in the north of the city.
During the 1970s, you were obviously involved in IRA work.
Yeah.
But you were arrested then in 74, was it?
Yeah, 74. Well, I was arrested before that there, but 74 was the major one, caught with explosives. Me and a big fella called Q Hare from County Clare. He was a volunteer who come up from the south.
Why is there not a song about him? What
I'll show you. So, well, later on, he was shot dead by the Garda. A lot of years, about 10 years after that, he was shot dead as a volunteer. But he was up with me, big Q, brilliant big fella. Everybody loved him in Long Kesh when he went down. Very, very innocent in the sense of coming north and he gets caught with me. We were caught with explosives and we were in the Crumlin Road. That particular time had political status, so A-Wing was exclusively provisional, or IRA. I don't like using that word provisional. We don't call ourselves that, but that's the name that was given to us. And we spent time in the Crumlin Road. Tried to escape from the Crumlin Road. We got a two-year sentence on top of our 10 years. So we went down to Long Kesh, and that was a great experience. I mean, it was harsh conditions, naturally, food-wise and dampness and cold and things like that there. But there was a great spirit in the camp, you know. I mean, when you get into Long Kesh, it is a prisoners' war camp. So we had a commanding officer and his staff, like the battalion, we call them battalion OC, battalion quartermaster, battalion intelligence officer. And in each compound, a cage as we call it, you had a commanding officer. And then each of the 3 huts, you'd have a commanding officer. So there was a good military structure there, and you needed it, because we were all hellbangers. We were all 17, 18 years of age. We were all like young lads. So you had to get up at 8:30 in the morning. You had to make your bed. You'd drill left clay joss around the yard. You had PT to do. Then there was lectures, history lectures on 1798 rebellion. I don't know what happened in 1798. We didn't know. We didn't know the full extent of 1916. So you're getting all this kind of history. You were encouraged to read books. You know, start reading books. There was a Long Kesh magazine. I wrote an article in it myself. It's like 50 spelling mistakes in it. You know, other things that you learn. Then I got out in 1979. Q was dumped down the south, put him across the border. Then I rejoined again, joined the IRA against my mother's protest, because she said, you've done enough, you've done your bit, this is it, get a girl, have children, get married, all that kind of stuff. And you really, really wanted to do that, but I was committed to it for some reason. I just knew I had to go back. So I got out that Friday morning. I met one of the commanding officers and I said, look, give me a couple of days here, I'll report back on Monday. And that's the way it was in the 70s. A lot of people went out and they got married and had kids and fair play, that was it. But there was a few of us, a minority, to get out, and they continued on. And I joined the Irish Republican Army. At that time, there was no companies, it was active service units. So I became a member of the active service unit. I was active in that. Then I got word there was a team coming over from West Belfast. This was a really excellent active service unit from the Ballymurphy area. And they were doing an operation North Belfast with an M16 machine gun. They were going to ambush a convoy. There was Gerwood military barracks and Dunmore military barracks, and was always that was the main arterial route between them.
British Army convoy?
Oh, British Army. They were going to just hit the first convoy that came down the road. And we sat up, we got into the house, took over the family, put the family safely down the stairs. Myself, Robert Campbell, who was commanding officer, and Angelo Fusco, we were up the stairs, and Paul McGee, Dingus, was down the stairs, he was the driver. We set up the ambush, got ready, and 1 hour went by, 2 hours went by, didn't know what the hell's happening. And Robert said to me, what the hell, there's no traffic? So I looked at him, no, there can't be, there's no traffic lights. And one of the lads said, oh, it's okay, now there's a car. Apparently they blocked off all the road, and coming right down the middle of the Antrim Road was this car. So we thought it was civilian. And next thing the car did one of them Sweeney turns, Switter, and 5 SAS guys get out of the car, and that's when the shooting started. The captain of that particular outfit, Captain Westmacott, this was Special Air Services.
Herbert Westmacott.
They were in civilian uniforms, some had long hair, but they had orange armbands. That's what I noticed when we were shooting out. And he was hit. Dingus got out the back. He was grabbed. They wanted to shoot him, but they didn't know what to do. They were the gun, they were going to execute him. But because of the shooting, the heavy shooting, they didn't know what, they took him as a hostage then. And we quietened down, we all kind of hugged each other and said, you know, if I die, you tell my mother that Joe died, he was brave to the end, and back, we all kind of, we're all psyched up, and the bullhorns come on, come out with your hands up sort of thing, so we waited and waited. And then Robert shouted out, Fat shouted out, we want a priest round here. Because we thought we were going to go down the stairs and the SS, they were going to shoot us dead. So we put the weapons outside the window for the cameras to see. So we were shot dead outside, we get a bit of propaganda. You know, we were all executed. But that didn't happen. We got out, we got arrested. We're taken up to Castlereagh for 7 days. And then on back to the Crumlin Road. So that was my third time getting into the Crumlin Road prison. So I was shattered. You know, when you're only out and you're starting to meet girls and have a life and designer clothes, and then you're back in. I've already done 7 years, so it was tough getting back in. But the commanding officer, a guy called Noel Quigley, I've known for years, so he's since died, said, get yourself shaped up, you gotta get yourself together. Now this time it was different because we weren't on a political wing, it was a mixed wing. So there was like PUL, Nationalist Republican. So each cell, your cell partner would be a Catholic or a nationalist or whatever, but the next cell would be different. So you'd have a UVF guy next door here and a UDA guy on the other side and different things. So it was mixture. But we had a great, this was like the segregation battle, because us and the Loyalists agreed we shouldn't be together. So one night we would be in the canteen, they would eat in the cell, and then the next night, etc., they would be out in the yard one day, we would stay in the cell, then the following day. So within that, it was more restrictive. And then Fat Campbell had a good idea. He says, you know, I was in here before and have an idea how to get out. Now, in each prison, no matter where we are, whether it's America or in England or Ireland, north and south, in each jail you had a command structure. And the central officer in that particular command is the IO, intelligence officer, because he was in charge of intelligence, of course, throughout the jail, and also to form an escape committee. You get a couple of seniors, men in the jail, sit down and get ideas. Through the wall, under the wall, over the wall sort of thing to get there. So we were restricted because digging a tunnel on the Crumlin Road was fruitless. Where are you going to put the dirt? Going over the wall because of the army watchtowers and things like that there was a bit more difficult. A couple of ideas come up about blowing the wall, getting explosives in and blowing the outside wall. That was tried one time. So Robert Campbell says, what about going out the front door? And everybody went, oh, say, you crazy or what? Going out the front door? That was being the last. And he said, but that's the last thing. That's the last thing that they're going to think of. And I've got an idea. So he came up with the idea because he was in before and he seen something because he had to come out of the visits to go in to see the lawyers who was up. So, right, let's watch it. So everybody had a chore to do. So every time we come down A wing, down into the cell blocks, that's where you seen the barristers and the solicitors coming in. So we started to watch all the individual screws, how many screws is there at any one time, at what times is the screws heavy. There was a visiting room down there from D wing, so how many people in an average time would be in there. So we built up the intelligence, and whereas all the, what they call the emergency buttons, the red button, where they would hit if they were jumped on and things like that there. So that was planned out. So it says, right, Joe, your chore is going to be is to dress up as a screw. Me and the two Sloans were in the cell, and Dingus was out seeing the solicitor, and information was given into him. So when he came out, I shouted out to Dingus, what's it like out there? It's a good day, what do you think? Is it going to be sunny today? And he said yes, and that was a sign that we're going to go on the escape. Now, I already smuggled the gun down. I had a gun in my boot from A-Wing. I had to walk all the way down. I had the E25 broken up, put in my boot. That was the scariest moment, because see if I was stopped and searched, the whole thing was screwed. We got there, so like sweats run down your back. Went down to the grill at A-Wing, I got searched. They felt all the way down my boot, so I had to tense up my right foot. So when he felt that, he thought it was a bone, but it wasn't. It was a part of the 25, but he didn't catch it. Well, one of the things you got to do is when you're escaping, and it was proven in the 84 escape down at the H blocks, is you disarm the guard. You don't want to be in a position where he gets aggressive with you. So I knew he supported Arsenal. So I said to him, what about Arsenal? I heard you are buying a new player. So they get all friendly, so he's searching you down here, but he's not doing as rough as he probably would. So once I got downstairs into the cells, I took the gun out. I gave it to one of the lads, one of the Sloans. They put the gun together. Yeah, once Dingus said it's going to be a sunny day, that was the escape going. So once that door opened, I pulled the screw in, and we said, Irish Republican Army, this is an escape, you're under arrest. So he put his hands up, got him to take his tunic off, so I put the tunic on. I already had a blue shirt, because you weren't allowed blue shirts in, because they wore blue shirts. So we got dye and dyed it. So I already had it on, but didn't want to be wasting their time taking his shirt off. And all I did was take his tie off, put the tunic on, have his baton and his keys, and I went right out into the hallway. So when I went round, we arrested the rest of the screws. They didn't know what was going on. They were laughing at us when I'm saying, get into that cell. And we had to get them in, get them set down. They were a bit confused what was going on, because me and a guy called Pt.1, a volunteer from Tyrone, he was later executed by the SAS, about 20 years later. We took over the block. The thing was going on too long. It should have only been less than 3 minutes, and that was stretching on, because there was riots going on because of Bobby Sands and the other lads. They were down because we were going out right in the middle of the hunger strikes. 4 hunger strikers already died, and that's when we got the permission, because we were going to court on Friday to get sentenced. Our trial was over. We were going to get on Friday to get sentenced, to be sent down to his blocks, and then we went out on a Thursday, I think it was, Wednesday or Thursday. So we were going out. We just had to get out. We had to determine to get out that door. So as I said, things went on long because there was rioters in and the families in, and then the phone rang, right in the middle of everything. All the screws were down, their hands above their heads. Everybody was quiet. We had to go, and the phone rang, and somebody said, pick the phone up. No, you don't. It was upstairs phoning down to what was taking them so long of bringing prisoners back. And Robert Campbell said to me, go, Joe, you Pete, go. One of the Sloans dressed up as a solicitor. He had the Queen's University scarf, the glasses, and the briefcase. So he just walked out, walked up the walkway until what you call the front yard. This is where the front gate is. And we just walked across, and I noticed about 10 or 15 screws, because the shifts were changing. That's why we wanted before the shifts. And they kept looking at me, and I go, fuck, they're going to spot me here. They're going to know it's me. You know, but you have the cap on. They were looking at me like they must be down from the maze or something, as they called it. So I got to the front gate, and there's a wee tailgate sort of thing in the middle of the big gate. And the screw was on the other side, and I says, we need to get out. Where's the pass key? Don't have time. This man here, his wife is in the mater. She's having a cesarean. We need to get him out now. And he's going, oh, I can't let Jimmy. We need to get him out now. His wife's around there bleeding. So when I heard him click, and I pushed the door open, and we get in, me, Pete, and Ryan. That's when the rest of the boys come up. So it's Biggie McKee and Dingus and the lads, and we get into what's known as the airlock between the two big gates. And that's when hell started going, because that's when I started nosing. Pete ran right into the pill box at the front gate. He ran in there. He was going in to take the 2 army guys. When he walked in, there was 6 of them sitting there because their shifts had changed. And when he came out, he said, there's too many of them. He had only 4 bullets in his gun. And so we just went out the front gate. I remember getting to the front gate, and well, he was an old fella, but he wasn't. I'm only like 24, so he was probably 34. And he wouldn't give it. I'll lose my job if I give you this key. And we just fucking punched the shit out of him. You know, he was like holding on to his job, and I go, big copper key. We get out of there, then we ran up the Crumlin Road, and the first thing I noticed was colours, because you're locked up 15, 16 months, all grey, and there's a big red bus and a blue van, and I seen the army across the street. They were outside the courts. So we ran up, get across into the Shankill, and that's when the 2 cars are there. But that's when all the shooting started, you know, so Pete and Robert had the 2 guns, only T25s, they had SLRs and cops and everything. It was like 65 shots fired. I don't know why anybody wasn't hit, but I just jumped up because I had the uniforms. I said, I'm a police officer. And they stopped. I remember the wee cop saying to the sergeant, what the hell's going on here? Because all I seen was us run out of the gate, and I don't know why they were shooting. They didn't even know themselves. And that's when I ran through the Shankill. I ran through, just kept running and running, seeing people coming. This is the lower Shankill, was just built then. And there was the Malvern Arms, which was a famous UVF bar. And I ran in there and took my tunic off, and all these out fellas drinking porter. And I'm like taking my tunic off and then run around the street. I heard all the women saying, "They're trying to kill that policeman." Well, it was me. And I fell on a mound of grass, and Beaky McKee and Angelo fell on top of me. I thought they were two cops. What do we do now? Because the helicopters up, the jeeps is everywhere. And like it was like a divine.
Was it still on the Shankill Road?
It's still on the Shankill Road, and it was like a divine intervention. The most beautiful of blonde women come out of her house with her car keys, dangling the car keys like that. And that was us triggered to get up. Angelo goes over and said, "Irish Republican Army," and I said, "No, we're UVF, Ulster Defence Force or something." So we got into the car and we drove. The car was from, people were trying to overturn the car in the middle of the Shankill. Mostly kids trying to
Sorry, the kids were trying to overturn the car?
Couldn't start the car. The car was a wee bit, I don't know what the hell.
Right.
I don't know who was driving. I think it was Beaky or something. He was trying to get it into gear and he was jumping out of gear. You're in jail so long, you're forgetting how to drive. We were saying, calm down, calm down. In the meantime, they're trying to push the car over like this here. But
did they realise these were IRA?
Oh, yeah, because she started screaming, Fenians are stealing my car.
Oh, right.
You know, that's why I said, why'd you say IRA? Should have said UVF. You know, it would have been all right, she would have said, because she was actually the niece of Gussie Spence. We found that out about 30 years later. And we got on the Shankills, through Millfield, in the Castle Street, jumped out of Castle Street, we got on the black taxi, and they jumped in the front and in the back, and there's 3 wee women sitting there with their fucking messages. They thought I was a glue sniffer, because I was like, because you're running so much. I got there, and I remember the wee woman said, "You should go home to your mummy's house. You shouldn't be running about like that. You're too young to be in that state." And I go, I just escaped. And they're like, yes, son. I remember later on the 6 o'clock news when it must have come on, and she's probably said to her husband, he was in the friggin' black taxi with me. So we got out at the Pound Lonely Club. We were on there to give our codes for all our cars. The Irish Republican Army, D Company, Lower Falls, they took over. Brought us around, put us in houses, and I remember Bobby's story coming in, and he said, "What happened?" I says, "Well, I know I'm out. I know I'd seen Tony Sloan run across the Shankill. I think Fat Campbell's dead. I think Pete's dead. I think Dingus is dead." I said, "Because I don't know how they got out of that gunfight, because they were just pelting that car." And I crying like every time I feel of it. Bobby come back in the house, says, "You're all out, all idiots." And that was like, I felt guilty that I got away, and the guy who planned it, and the guy most instrumental, was lying dead outside the courthouse. But it was a fantastic feeling that all 8 of us got out. And it was at a time that 4 lads had just died in a hunger strike. And later on, if I did anything, I heard Joe McDonald was on his last breath. Somebody whispered that 6 lads got out. It was the first time he actually sat up in a long time with a smile on his face. So the escape isn't just to get us out, to get us free. It's a part of the struggle.
About morale.
Break morale, break their security. We could break that. This is the most, later on, the big one at the Hates blocks, like 20, 38 of them went out, and then us 8, or any escape, is a bruise to them, because we broke the security. The most secure prisons in Europe, if not the world, yet because of the ingenuity of the IRA, because of our cleverness and our courage and things like that, we were able to break your system. And us 8 getting out was great for the morale, because I remember people saying, were cheering, and people were, of course the army came in and searched everywhere for us, couldn't get us. And it was good for the lads inside, because word was coming into the Hates blocks, there was a radio on, somebody would hear, 8 lads got out of the Crumlin Road, and I heard the lads were cheering. Even the hunger strikers who were going up to the hospital before they died, it was like a morale booster to them, and that was very, very important to us.
Tune in next week for part 2, where Joe will be discussing his time in a New York prison with figures from the Black Panther Movement and criminal underworld figures such as John Gotti. It's going to be a good show. I'll see you then.
So if somebody came to me and said, we're going to get you out of the country, going over to America, initially I didn't want to go, like what I want to go for, but everything went pear-shaped then. Maggie Thatcher, who was the Prime Minister at that particular time, for Ronald Reagan, what is your courts doing? This man's a terrorist, he should be sent back. The screws, or the hacks we call them more, but the screws, they used to call me Tom Hagen. I'm like the Irish consigliere to the mafia, because I was...
Tom Hagen and a Godfather?
Oh, in a Godfather, because I used to run around, I used to get their visits sorted out. John Gotti, I thought he was the most interesting person I've ever met in my life. He was like a big star to me. He was just friendly and smart. He used to come in and take all my, even the political books and all, he was very, he knew his politics more than the rest of them and stuff.
And that does it for another week. We'd love for you to join the conversation by sharing the link to today's programme to help us grow our audience across all our social media platforms. I'd like to thank my special guest, Joe Doherty. In the meantime, the conversation will be back next week with more investigations and analysis. I'm Sean Murray. Bye for now.